Hi everybody and welcome back to Tales of Wanderlust. If you want to go on a 3,500 mile, 60-hour road trip with me to pick up my new overlanding rig, stay tuned. I've been searching for a really lightweight truck camper for a while and was able to find this Northern Lite 610 in Tofino, British Columbia. But due to the high demand, I needed to pick it up the same week that it was listed. Since I don't own a pickup truck and it was across the border, which requires COVID tests, this took a lot of logistical planning to pull off the trip. After 2 days of planning, I set out on the road for a 6-day, 60-hour trip to pick up the truck camper. All right, here I am at my first COVID test. So right now, the border does require a negative PCR or other acceptable COVID tests within 72 hours. The rapid test is not on there. So the diagnostic test can take between 2 to 3 days to get results back. The thing is, I have to have those results within 72 hours of going across the border. So I've actually scheduled 2 COVID tests at the Walgreens drive-thru. The first one means I have to cross the border before 3:45 on Friday, but I'm not guaranteed to be across the border by 3:45. So the second COVID test, although results may be slightly delayed, but if I get delayed driving and I need to cross the border later on Friday or on Saturday, that second COVID test is what I'm going to have to use. So this was one of the most stressful logistics about going across the border, is getting these tests and making sure I have results back in time. So hopefully this plan with 2 tests works out okay. Whew. All right, we made it the first leg of the trip. So day 1 is done. Every single day I have certain things that I need to get done in order to make this whole trip work. So I'm celebrating the little victories every single day. Today it was simply to make it to Rawlins, Wyoming and take my first COVID test at Walgreens. So I am here. I am in this cute little hotel. It is the Rawlins Western Motel, and I have my Taco Bell for dinner. So I'm gonna eat, check some work emails, and crawl into bed and go to bed. So we'll see you all tomorrow. With having such short notice for this trip, I was only able to take 2 days off of work. So on the second day, I did still have to work the full 8 hours. Hotels have an 11 a.m. checkout time, so I did what I could there and then finished up the workday in the McDonald's parking lot, working off my laptop and Wi-Fi hotspots. After that, the goal of day 2 was to take my second COVID test and then drive from Rawlins, Wyoming to Salt Lake City, Utah. There's a fly in here. All right, here we are, hotel number 2, day number 2. So today was definitely a little bit more of a stressful day. There was a fly in this hotel room. So the reason it didn't quite go exactly as planned is I'm supposed to be off of work for the rest of the trip, but there was so much work that came in today. I actually have my laptop over here and I'm gonna sign in and try to get my work done so I can finish that for the rest of the day. Then when I went to get the COVID test, when I originally called, they said it was gonna be 2 to 3 days to get results. When I did the test, handed it back, she said I would get results in 5 to 7 days. The trick is you need to have results within 72 hours in order to cross the border. So that test isn't going to work. So we're gonna see tomorrow if I get the results from my first test. Otherwise, while I'm here in Salt Lake City, I'm going to need to try to find some sort of test where I can get results much faster. But the win for today is at least I made it to Salt Lake City, so distance-wise, I am still on pace. So I am going to get to work. Kind of a stressful day, but at the same point, a successful day, so I will take it. Tomorrow is going to be a really long driving day, so hopefully that goes smoothly as well. All right, good morning, everybody. Can you even really see me there from my headlights? It is day 3. It is 6:20 in the morning. It looks a lot later out in the camera than it actually is, but sunrise is around 7:05, so we're getting out just where the light is starting to come up over the mountains here in Salt Lake. So the plan for day 3 is a lot of driving. I'm going to drive from Salt Lake City to Seattle, Washington, and we'll see if I get my test results from my first COVID test around midday. If I don't, then I'm going to call them, follow up, Otherwise, I might need to find some sort of testing center in either Boise, Idaho, which I passed through, or Seattle, and try to find something where I can get results within hopefully 24 hours. So that's kind of the big stressor right now, is making sure that I can have a negative COVID test by the time I try to cross the border on Friday. So that's a little stressful, but we'll see how it goes. And then I have to find a bank in order to get out the money for the camper. So gonna hit the road now. The drive for day 3 ended up going really smoothly. There really wasn't much traffic, and I actually ended up being ahead of schedule most of the day. Around noon, I called to follow up on my COVID test because I still did not have results. At that point, they said they were still guaranteed within 72 hours, so I should be all set to get my COVID test and cross the border the next day. So at this point, I was feeling pretty confident that the plan was still going to work out. I was actually well ahead of schedule, so I was able to stop off at the mail shipping place in northern Washington and pick up the package I had shipped to myself, which contained the tie-downs for the Tacoma frame. Then I checked into a hotel in Bellingham, Washington, which is right on the border of US and Canada, and spent the night there with the plan to cross the border in the morning. Day 4, I woke up and I still did not have COVID test results. I had to have them by 3 p.m. of that day, otherwise it would have been past 72 hours and the border would no longer accept them. While I waited for the results, I tried to install the tie-downs onto the Tacoma frame, but I did not have the proper tools. I called around to different repair shops in town, and thankfully there was one up the road that was willing to help me out. I pulled in, they gave me the right tools to install them, and I was able to get the tie-downs onto the frame of the truck. It was then around 10 a.m., so I decided to go to the ocean and sit on the beach and wait for my COVID test results to come in. Once noon rolled around and I still didn't have any results, I knew I needed to find another option. I went to the Bellingham airport and I took a COVID test there, but results wouldn't come in for about 48 hours. I needed to be across the border and into Tofino the next day in order to pick up the truck camper. So I found another test online that was going to cost $300, and I had to drive back down to Seattle in order to take it. It took me 2.5 hours to drive into Seattle because of traffic, and then another 2.5 to drive back up to the Canadian border. Thankfully, the test did come back in time, and I did have a negative test result. I was able to cross the Canadian border around 10 o'clock and found a hotel right by the ferry terminal for the night. All right, I've been not a very good vlogger on this trip because every moment has been precious, and every moment I spend doing something else is one less moment I sleep. So I am here at, I don't even know what time it is. I have no idea. It's sometime around like 4:15 in the morning at the Tawasin Ferry Terminal here in British Columbia. I have my ticket, and when you pull in, you purchase your ticket. They put you in these different lanes. So that's where I am right now. I'm in lane 27, waiting to board. I was supposed to be on the 8:15 ferry last night, which was Friday, but because of all of my COVID testing issues and not getting results in time, my ferry was originally at 8:15. So I just checked into a hotel near the port, and I was gonna try to get up at 5:45 this morning, but I just naturally woke up at 3:45. I guess I'm anxious, ready to go. So here we are. I have an hour to wait, and they said I would go standby when I talked to them on the phone last night, but I have a ticket and I'm in line. So I'm assuming I'm on the 5:15. I don't know. He was not very clear at the ticket booth. So I think I'm good. I think I'm getting on the 5:15, which means at 7:15 I will be on the island, and then I have to drive from Nanaimo across the island into Tofino. And Tofino is where I'm going to actually be picking up what I came all this way for. So hopefully things go smoothly today. All right, here we go. We are loading. I haven't been on a ferry in like 5 years, so this should be fun. So if you can see where they're loading up, you actually go straight, you take a tight left, and then you actually start driving up those ramps in order to get onto the ferry. Everybody's boarding, and our little standby lane here is not moving since we're the last people on. Hopefully, since there's so many lanes empty, there's no problem with us getting on, but you know, we'll see. Oh, we're moving! Yes! All right. They really don't give you much room on these ramps, do they? Oh my goodness, this is tight.
All right, we've made it onto the ferry. We officially are on the 5:15 a.m. ferry over to Nanaimo. So big success because I was behind schedule. I had wanted to spend last night in Nanaimo, but by getting on the really early ferry, I can actually get back on track and be in Tofino around 11 a.m. to noon. So fingers crossed, everything works out today. Since I've got about 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours on the boat, I'm going to leave the vehicle and head up top side, I think. I'm not quite sure where the passengers actually go, but I'm gonna head up and try to watch the sunrise and check out the views as we cross the harbor. Blocking us in, and I don't think the driver is in that car yet, so people are not happy. I don't know what happens in this situation. Oh, it smells like fish. All right, we have made it to Nanaimo, British Columbia. I am now out on the island. I now have to get from Nanaimo to Tofino, so that's going all the way across the island to the west coast. So it's about 3 hours, although there is construction on the road, so that could add up to an hour delay. We'll see how this goes. If you have never had Nanaimo bars, I would recommend looking up a recipe. There is a recipe right on the Nanaimo, British Columbia website, and they are delicious. My brother makes them for the family every year for Christmas. It's one of the best things. So there's a little tidbit of trivia for Nanaimo.
There were no issues with the drive over to Tofino, so when I got into town, I gave the owner of the Northern Lite a call. He gave me the address of where to find the house. After all of the driving and the issues with the COVID test, it was such a relief to pull into the driveway and see the truck camper sitting there. The owner owned a Tacoma, so he was really familiar with how to load it onto the truck, but it is designed for older model Tacomas. We had to put the truck camper on top of some wood in order to lift it above the radio fin that sits on the roof. This made it sit much higher than I wanted it to, which did affect gas mileage on the way home, but overall it sat into the truck and secured down really nicely. Once it was loaded up, I did the 3-hour drive back across the island. The construction was a lot more nerve-wracking knowing I had a truck camper on the back of the truck, but I made it safely across the island and met a friend in Nanaimo for the night. She had rented a campsite, so we spent the first night in the truck camper. The bed was really comfortable, and it actually has a guest bed down in the kitchen area, so we both fit comfortably. The next morning we got up and ate some breakfast. Then I hit the road to start the 30-hour trip back to Colorado. It was the first time I was driving with the truck camper, so I did stop every 10 to 15 minutes to secure the chains to make sure nothing was coming loose. I was able to get a ticket for the oversized section on the next ferry out. At this point, I was very tired, so I actually ended up taking a nap for 2 hours on one of the life jacket containers on the outside of the ferry. Then I was able to cross the border back into the US without any issues. There was no paperwork required for the truck camper since it is considered cargo, so I just had to declare it and show the purchase contract. Made it all the way to Pendleton, Oregon that day and was able to see the sunset over Mount Rainier, which was absolutely beautiful. I checked into a hotel, got a few hours of sleep, and then got up the next morning to finish the drive. I had originally planned to continue driving into the next day, but I was tired and ready to get home, so I ended up driving until 2 o'clock in the morning and made it all the way to Colorado on that second day. And that's it. I am now the proud owner of a Northern Lite 610 truck camper. So it's a little bit of putting the cart before the horse because I still own the 4Runner and I don't have a pickup truck quite yet, but I plan to swap out the 4Runner for some sort of pickup truck. That is still to be determined. And then I plan to renovate the inside of this so it's modern, it has lithium batteries, solar, good heat, and then hopefully this becomes the rig I am taking to Alaska and it will become more of an overlanding type rig for me. So thanks for watching, everybody. Really appreciate you tagging along, and stay tuned for a full tour of the truck camper coming up down the road.